Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day so far. My name is Jurassic and welcome to today's bonus episode. In this video, I will be finally giving my spoiler thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth. At the time of this recording, it has been 2.5 weeks since the movie opened wide, so I'm hoping that anyone watching this video has gotten a chance to see the movie. This video took a little while to put out because I asked some of my buddies if they wanted to do a collab like what David and I did for Predator Killer of Killers, but everyone was just too busy. I get it, we all lead busy lives, and there's still more Jurassic content coming later this year with Season 4 of Chaos Theory. If that is truly the last hurrah of the pre-Rebirth era, assuming the rumors are true, then perhaps we can make something work then. With that out of the way, I have some thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth, good and bad. To give a short, non-spoilery summary, after watching the movie twice in the same day, yes, I liked it more than Jurassic World Dominion. And if I were to rank it amongst, for the sake of brevity, just the films, it's right in the middle at 4th place. Now let's get into specifics, and there is a lot of them, so before proceeding, this is your first, last, and only spoiler warning. So this first point is both a pro and a con, but I'm starting with the positive side of things. The movie starts in 2010 while the rest of the movie takes place in 2027 at Isle St. Hubert, 226 miles east of French Guiana. If your geography is as bad as mine, French Guiana is on the northeastern coast of South America, so the island is right about here. The trailers for Rebirth, which I did not watch until after I had seen the film, say that this place is a R&D site for the original Jurassic Park, right? Well, that's kind of a bait and switch for marketing, as the true purpose of this island is because they're experimenting with genetic modifications and hybridization in response to audience demands from Jurassic World. I'll have more to say about this revelation in the cons, but for now, I just want to say that while this is still a world film, this opening scene does set the tone with a tone more in line with the park films. As much as people like to riff on the product placement in this film, I felt like the Snickers bar wrapper that led to Calamity was a callback to the novel of The Lost World, where open candy bars led to Howard King and Eddie Carr's respective deaths. Also, while we're on the topic of this movie's opening, having an opening scene of a facility catastrophe with someone having to make a choice to leave their friend or loved one behind for the sake of containment and safety felt very reminiscent to 2014's Godzilla, which is a movie that I love and, if you weren't already aware, share Rebirth's director, Gareth Edwards. Overall, I like the cast and the characters they portray. The dynamic between them feels more genuine and overall fun, less stilted than what we saw in some of the previous World films. This is the first thing I've ever seen Jonathan Bailey in, and I thought Dr. Loomis was a fun character. I also don't really have much to say about the Delgado family. Sure, I did not like Xavier when he was first introduced, but it's obvious that we as the audience weren't supposed to. He's meant to grow as a character and on the audience, so by the end of the movie, I shrugged and said, yeah, it's fine. I mean, this guy didn't hesitate to dive into Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus populated waters to save his girlfriend, after all. They could have done more with it, I'm sure. Maybe even have him not survive in the end, despite his best effort to turn things around. But hey, at least something was there. Now, Jurassic World Rebirth does have a healthy roster of creatures, and while they mention in the film that the island has 24 species, we only see 20 in the entire movie, some of which aren't on the island and feature designs from previous films. The roster, in order of appearance, is Distortus Rex, Apatosaurus, the severed head of a Dunkleosteles, a baby Pteranodon, the skeletal jaws of a Megalodon, Mosasaurus, Spinosaurus with at least 4 variations, maybe 5, Aquilops, some kind of proto-crocodilian amphibian-looking thing, some kind of giant eel or snake in the river, possibly a Titanoboa, Velociraptor, Mutodon, Titanosaurus, Quetzalcoatlus, the corpse of a Parasaurolophus sporting the Dominion colors, Dilophosaurus, Tyrannosaurus rex, Anurognathus, Compsognathus, and finally, Ankylosaurus. Boldly, other than the D-Rex, Mosasaurus, Aquilops, Mutodons, and Anurognathus, each species either has one dedicated scene to it, or they just appear quickly in the foreground or background. I didn't get a look at all of the failed creatures specimens in the lab, even on a second viewing, so I'll have to dig into that once the Blu-ray comes out. For overall screen time of the prehistoric creatures, though, I would be shocked if it clocked in over 25 minutes. The cinematography in this movie is great. There are some great shots that are common in a Gareth Edwards movie that look cool while also giving you a sometimes foreboding sense of scale, and other shots that would look great recreated as paintings. I thought that this just overall was a great looking movie. Speaking of great, the scene with the Mosasaurus pursuit / Spinosaurus attack was just that. If anyone has been missing the Spinosaurus, I hope that this scratched that itch for you. Even if the designs are more updated to be scientifically accurate, they kept the Jurassic Park 3 sounds from what I could tell. They even scored 2 kills here, which actually leads me to my next point. Unlike Dominion, which mostly kept its deaths off-screen or obscured, Rebirth shows its deaths on-screen for the most part. The most obscure death is Nina's, and I'm not sure if this is because it was mixing in with the water on the shore, but man, does she leave a lot of blood behind. The animal's behaviors outside of maybe the Mutodons are depicted far more animalistic than monstrous. Even the Distortus Rex isn't this malicious killing machine hell-bent on stalking the cast. It's just kind of doing its own thing, minding its business until the cast shows up in its territory at the end. More on that later. A perfect example of the animal behavior is the Titanosaurus courting scene, which according to writer David Koepp was originally supposed to show them mating. I mean, hey, animals breed, that's part of nature, but I think this scene works without it. And as far as the Quetzalcoatlus scene goes, the Quetzalcoatlus only attacked them because it thought they were trying to steal its eggs, which is totally valid. I am very glad that they did not make Isabella Delgado obnoxiously bratty like novel Lex. I say this because my main concern going into the river raft sequence, loosely adapted from the original novel, was that she was going to antagonize the Tyrannosaur into following them. But no. Thankfully, the T-Rex actually starts off curious of them, staring at them to analyze just what they are before it follows them and goes on the attack. Now, I have heard some people balking at the fact that the raft survives being bitten down on and stepped on by a T-Rex, but each one of these Jurassic Park movies has at least one scene that doesn't make sense practically, but it still looks cool. So, to me, this was that scene. I am not a raft or boat or outdoorsy kind of guy, but when I saw just how durable this thing was, I couldn't help but think, yeah, that's a quality raft right there. Finally, I did get a kick out of how the Delgados hide in a convenience store and everyone escapes through the drainage maintenance tunnels beneath the store and village. It is not only a callback to the kitchen scene from the original film, but also a nod to the end of the second novel. With that, let's talk about the cons, and we're going to start with the smaller ones. I'm saving the biggest for last, don't worry. So the whole reason that this expedition is even happening is because Parker Genetics needs DNA from 3 of the biggest dinosaurs for coronary research and curing heart diseases. Funnily enough, 2 of them aren't even dinosaurs. Dr. Loomis is a paleontologist who studied under Alan Grant, so you'd think that he would know that Mosasaurus and Quetzalcoatlus are not dinosaurs. Also, apparently Titanosaurus is not an officially recognized genus, species, so there's that too, which I honestly did not know until I looked it up. I always assumed that Titanosaurus was still valid, but apparently not. Now, there is no mention in this movie of Maserati Global, so again, Rebirth is leaning more into the park side of things, even if it doesn't really add up. More on that later. InGen has gone Chapter 11, perhaps closed and sold off by Maserati Global, which Parker Genetics has bought their data, which is how they're able to track the Mosasaurus. But one thing that bugged me was that if this is meant to be the same Mosasaurus from the previous Jurassic World films, why does it look so different? It's a completely different color scheme and has an altered body shape and details. Like, this is not the same Mosasaurus that jumped out of the lagoon at the park. I have heard about a theory about InGen cloning a second Mosasaurus, but admittedly, I didn't really dig too deep into this. Remember that I skipped any kind of promotional videos and as many promotional materials in general as I could for Jurassic World Rebirth, as I wanted to try and go in as unspoiled as I could. The effects for Rebirth are almost exclusively digital, which harkens back to 2015's Jurassic World in a way that I'd rather it didn't. Now, looking at some behind-the-scenes footage, some practical effects were used with Dolores and the Mutodons, but CG'd over in post. Now, with that being said, the CG is about what you'd expect with a Jurassic film. Most of it looks great, like absolutely fantastic. While there are a shot or two that, you know what, probably could have used another pass. I also couldn't help but wonder with just how big this island is and how much vegetation that it has to be able to support that many titanosaurs. This isn't something that makes or breaks the movie, but it was just a little minor detail that I thought I'd throw out there. As for the Quetzalcoatlus, while I do like how the quills on the Quetzal stands up when it is agitated and defending its nest, I do think I prefer the Dominion design. Now, granted, Dominion's Quetzalcoatlus was cloned by Biosyn with pure genome, while InGen's would have used the DNA of other creatures to fill in the gaps, as Dr. Wu stated in Jurassic World that is what they have always done. I've mentioned the Mutodons a couple of times so far, and I've got to be honest, I don't think I'm entirely sold on the Mutodons. Sure, they get the job done, and their design is fine, but I think they could have been replaced with the camouflaging Carnotauruses from the Lost Worlds novel. They even say in the movie that the facility/worker village is safer in the day than it is at night, which is something that is mentioned in the Lost World book because of the Carnos. Even the T-Rexes in that book don't stick around long during the day in the Carnos territory. So with this dialogue and the use of the song Stand By Me as everything is power up, this would have been a perfect time to have the camouflaging Carnotauruses make an appearance. Imagine if the camera pans around the group as the lights come on, only to have a silhouette of a Carnotaurus standing behind the Delgados, still showing the pattern of the storefront when it was shrouded in darkness. That would have been so cool! They could have even had the Velociraptors follow them into the maintenance tunnel, just like the end of the Lost World novel, but have them run away after Zora shoots one, just so that they weren't in the movie of just getting bodied by the Mutodons. While I do respect the bold choice to keep most of the film's bestiary to usually one scene per species, I do feel like the presence of the Distortus Rex needed to be felt more. I'm not necessarily saying it needed more screen time, but more evidence of its existence building up to its full reveal at the end would have been nice. Like when they find the helicopter in the jungle. The whole team, not just Martin, could have looked at the wreckage with somebody saying, looks like the Quetzal's got him. While Loomis could have pointed out that the damage would be inconsistent with the features of a Quetzalcoatlus. Maybe even a dead Titanosaur, and someone says, what could take down a Titanosaur? They mentioned that while the Titanosaurs are herbivores, the things that hunt them aren't. But there is no sign of them being hunted anywhere in the film. Now, the second time I watched Rebirth, by the time the Distortus showed itself as Loomis and Duncan were looking for a way to get the rescue helicopter's attention, I thought to myself, geez, I forgot that this thing was even in the movie. I also think that outside of a couple of lines of dialogue on the beach after the Spinosaurus Mosasaurus attack, that the ethics of keeping failed experiments alive weren't touched upon. There could have been interesting conversations and morality with with this particular subject matter, and the movie barely touched it, whereas I was hoping that it would have had a much stronger presence in the final product. Now, with that being said, this movie does have a bit of an incomplete feeling, and apparently the Blu-ray is going to have deleted scenes, so maybe there'll be something there. If there is an extended version of Jurassic World Rebirth, I want to see it. Now, the ending of the film, I'm mixed on. I am totally fine with this movie not ending in another big dinosaur fight, despite that being the original plan with the T-Rex ambushing the Distortus and defeating it before Gareth Edwards was convinced by the visual effects supervisor to not do that. And because the last 3 films have ended with dinosaur fights, and while I'm in the crowd that doesn't hate Dominion, that one had the weakest final battle of all. I'm also fine with Duncan Kincaid living at the end, even though how he escaped the Distortus remains a mystery. But I feel like there would have been more of an emotional punch at the end if he hadn't survived. Duncan has some backstory and dialogue that does a pretty good job of setting up this payoff. Gareth Edwards confirmed that this was also the original intention. Mahershala Ali was all for it, but Universal asked the cast and crew to shoot both outcomes, and then they ultimately went with the ones that you see in theaters since it went over better with test screenings. Finally, we're coming to my biggest issues with Rebirth. If you thought I was nerding out before, 1, why are you surprised? And 2, hold on to your butts because I'm about to go nuts here. Bear with me. I know Dominion was poorly received, and I'll be the first to tell you that it's got issues, but it feels like Rebirth goes out of its way to undo Dominion's finale. Allow me to explain. Dinosaurs can only thrive in tropical climates near the equator now, right? Well, I got morbidly curious and busted out Google Maps. This line here is from Winnipeg, Manitoba to Texas City, Texas, which is about 2,582 kilometers or 1,604 miles. Zooming out as far as I could on my phone, this line is an inch long. Now the Dolomites are here, and the equator is about 1.75 inches away on my phone screen once it's fully zoomed out. Based on that math, 2,582 kilometers multiplied by 1.75 is 4,518.5 kilometers or 2,807.7 miles. With that in mind, the Dolomites are here and New York City is here. 1.5 inches from the equator on my screen when fully zoomed out, meaning that it's about 3,873 kilometers or 2,406 miles from the equator. Now, we see an Apatosaurus dying in the streets of New York City due to not being able to adjust, and given that the Dolomites are further away, I think it's pretty safe to say that the sanctuary at the end of Dominion is just a corpse yard by now. I know that nobody lives forever, but I feel like the Queen of Nublar, Buck and Doe, and all of the other dinosaurs housed in the sanctuary deserved better than this. Now, let's go back to the existence of Isle St. Hubert. The trailer said that this was an R&D site for the original Jurassic Park, yet the film says that they're experimenting with genetic modifications and hybridizations in response to audience demands. So why was there this whole other island in the Atlantic when the islands in the Pacific had more than enough manpower, lab space, and financial backing to dabble and work on that? Also, was Dr. Wu aware of the work on St. Hubert? This might have retroactively made the dynamic between Wu and Simon Masrani more interesting if Wu knew that Masrani had a whole other island for his staff to try and improve on what Henry created, which Henry surely would have taken as a sign of great disrespect, leading to the under-the-table deals that he had with Hoskins and Mills. Martin Krebs mentions a few times, again, that the island was an R&D site for, quote, the original park. But the original park never opened, unless he's referring to Jurassic World as the original park. But no parks came after Jurassic World, right? Jurassic Park wasn't a thing in 2010, but Jurassic World canonically opened in May 2005 and closed in 2015 after the Indominus Rex breakout. I feel like this addition to the lore and world building needed another pass. Or if Jurassic World Rebirth is meant to be more of a throwback to the original Jurassic Park trilogy, was it also meaning to throw back to a time when movies weren't always interconnected and the lore wasn't so important as it was now? Speaking of the lore, Rebirth has a small text dump after the opening scene saying that it has been 32 years since dinosaurs were reintroduced to the planet, but modern climates and conditions have taken their toll, leaving dinosaurs only able to thrive in climates near the equator. According to canon expanded material, the first dinosaurs were successfully cloned and hatched in 1986, which would mean that it has been 39 years since dinosaurs were reintroduced, but nobody outside of InGen would have known about them until 1993, and then they were revealed to the world with the San Diego incident in 1997. Now, each film takes place the year they were released, except for this one. This one is set in 2027, 5 years after Dominion. Or do they mean that dinosaurs were reintroduced to the world because of the San Diego incident? Are they implying that the San Diego incident took place in 1995? Even then, that's not true. Again, the timeline and lore details could have used another pass. Frustratingly, when Dr. Loomis is introduced, the animation on the screen at his museum tells the same information that the text info dump does, as well as the same information the radio broadcast during the scene where Martin Krebs and Zora Bennett meet had the same thing. The text dump didn't even need to be there. It could have just said 2027 and then played on as normal. What Rebirth does with the lore and how it fits into the timeline is, as someone who is as invested in this franchise as I am, for better or worse, easily the most frustrating thing about the movie. Now, while I have sizable issues with the film, I still had fun with Jurassic World Rebirth, and I look forward to covering more of the film's designs on the channel in the future. Sure, it didn't stick the back to basics or return to form landing the same way that Prey did, but if you thought that Dominion had too many moving parts, and if you're in the market for something a bit more linear, Rebirth just might do it for you. Like I said, it fits comfortably in the middle of my Jurassic movie ranking, and after the first screening, my son even said, after the last movie, we needed that. Now, a question that I've heard following Rebirth's release is actually a question that I've heard following the release of every Jurassic sequel. Where do we go from here? Some people ask that as a way to think of what stories they'd like to see in the future, whereas some ask that to ponder why Jurassic sequels continue to be made. As someone with a mindset of the former, here's what I think. While the dinosaurs are limited to living in equatorial environments, that doesn't mean that they're entirely separated from humanity, right? There are still plenty of populated regions on or near the equator, so there is still potential for humans and dinosaurs to cross paths and cause chaos. Heck, I think it was the day after I had seen Rebirth and I'd already come up with a plot for Jurassic Park 8. I say this next sentence with the utmost sincerity. If any of the creative powers that be behind the Jurassic franchise reach out to me and are willing to foot the bill for my time, I will pause any other project I am working on and I will write that script for you. And with that pipe dream out there, I think it's time to wrap this video up. Those are all of my thoughts on Jurassic World Rebirth, and I know that the movie has had mixed reception, just like literally every other Jurassic Park sequel. But let me know in the comments what you thought of Rebirth. Just keep it respectful and civil. Folks, if you've made it this far into the video, I really do want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch it. If you like what you see, be sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for future notifications, and share this video around. And until next time, this is Jurassic KM, signing off.